twin.
Hey, bud.
Hello. My name's Arabela Espinoza. I am joined by the amazing Aundre Larrow, portrait photographer, creative photographer. He's amazing. We are so excited for this live stream. We're here for 2 days. We're going to be doing some Photoshop and Lightroom mobile photography. So we're really excited about this. How are you doing?
Feeling good. She took all this time and put my photos up on the wall. I'm really honored. You do have to pay for them later, though,
okay.
So I don't want anybody to think I'm just giving things out. But I do very much appreciate you taking the time and hosting me.
Yeah, of course. We're really excited. I just wanted to say hello and let us know where you're watching from. We're here in San Francisco right now. Hi, Jordan. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sam. Hi, Tim. Hi, Leah.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Sorry we got a little late start, but we are here now, and we're super stoked for this 2-day live stream with Aundre. So, yeah, we have a full schedule today, so if we can take a look at that, that would be awesome. Kathleen just gave an awesome intro to our challenge for the day, the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, so make sure to watch the replay of that in the challenge tab. And then we've got Aundre until about 11:30 for mobile photography. We've got Howard with an XD Daily Creative Challenge afterwards, and then the XD stream with Branding and Identity with Lena. So that'll be at noon, so make sure to stick around for that. We've got a lot going on, so we're really excited. And just as a reminder, about half an hour from now, we do have our chat and win. So make sure that you stay active in the chat because you'll have a chance to win some stickers from Sticker Mule, which is always fun. Stickers are great. We've got someone from Oakland, from New Zealand, the Netherlands, Van Nuys, California. Awesome. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
So exciting. It's always fun to see where people are watching from. It's always a surprise.
Special shout out, that last person is my good friend, Red Gaskell.
Oh, hi, Red.
And I believe he is from over here, so whenever his brothers fly to visit him, they bring In and Out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sealed plastic bag.
Oh my God.
Apparently it's that serious.
In and Out is very serious, you guys. Awesome. Well, we're really excited to get started. Just a little bit about Aundre. He is based out of Brooklyn, but he comes from Florida. Woo, woo.
Shout out to Fort Lauderdale.
Any Florida peeps out there? Awesome. So, Aundre, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself. He's also a former Adobe Creative Resident, which is awesome. Let us know for anybody who is new to you, because you're probably not a new face for Adobe Live, but.
So, just really fast, since we talked about the residency.
Yes.
Oh, what's up from Salt Lake City? Shout out. Let's take a minute and just remind everybody that the applications are still open. So if you choose to apply to the residency, they're open until January 22nd, I believe. And the residency is open to anyone who is an emerging creative that has a project they want to pitch that they believe they can work on it for a full year. We can talk about this later because I know that we have a lot of things to work on now, but I just want to take a minute and say,
that's awesome.
The residency was really transformative for me.
Aww.
We're going to share some work that I did during that, but you know, sometimes it's just a thing of being able to like shop at a grocery store while you're full instead of hungry. Mm-hmm. So you can like take the time to work on what you want to work on and like have that peace of mind. Mm-hmm. And so even if you don't end up getting it because there's only like a couple spots, I would definitely tell you that the process of writing together an application and putting together a pitch is really, really valuable, which I'm sure you know because you work on this stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Not residency stuff. She's like a professional adult.
Aw, shush. That's incredible. I'm glad that you were encouraging people to apply. So make sure to, thank you, Tim. He's put in a link for how to apply to the program. So
absolutely.
Thanks so much. Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. Tell us a little about you.
A little about me. So I was born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Jamaica, the country, not the New York people know when you say Jamaica in New York, they're like, Jamaica Queens. You're like, no. And so then I moved to New York for like 2 seconds as a young child, and then I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so growing up in Fort Lauderdale, it is actually really similar to here in that there's a ton of immigrants and a ton of culture and like different spoken languages. Yeah. And there's like a lot of value there. So I think from an early part of my childhood, I've had this like fascination with like other things, especially like moving and growing up as like a Jamaican child in Florida. It's still very Jamaican. Yeah. And then I went to the University of Florida, where I was a journalism major, and I took a lot of photos because I liked it and because I really hated writing on deadline. But I started taking photos in high school on film cameras.
Cool. Oh, awesome.
And then in college, that was when we went to college in 2009. So that's when we like all started to take a lot of photos on our phones. And so I actually wanted to take a minute and show you guys some of those.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's take a look.
So what I really wanted to do today was like take a minute and show some like old work of mine, so you guys know when I try to talk about like things I'm working on that I'm not like trying to be kind of silly. And so like these are all photos I took on my phone and appeared when I was trying to like figure out what I wanted to do. Shout out to Colleen 954. And so I think I just want to start by saying that like the best way to be a better photographer, like outside of Lightroom, Photoshop, like anything else, is just to take more images.
Yes.
Just get in the practice of being able to like hone in on what you want. So my mom is a English teacher in a middle school, and she spends so much time talking about main idea. And so like when you look through these, like, you know, I thought like fade was really cool.
Yes. Ooh, that
just
shadow.
like little like moody shadows in the middle of the day.
It.
Low-key, I still love this photo though. I'll talk best about the rest of these, but
photo.
I do love the rest of these photos.
I love the color in that.
But this is actually like on my college campus. These are all things I just took like through time, and like as you can see, transitioning from film into like especially like a mobile photography setting. I always loved like chasing this idea of like things looking like film, kind of dusty and like
grainy
weird and a ton of color. And I think for a really long time that was that was more important to me than I think shooting. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just, you know, what I was thinking about. And some of these photos are near and dear to me in the moment. But like, I mean, you can look at this and like, no, I took it on a phone at the sun setting, but it's like super grainy and moody. And this is with my like baby cousin. Don't need to be doing all that. And so this is another great example. I just wanted you guys to see like, sometimes when people ask me when people ask me for like opinions about photos I'm taking, and I say like, take more stuff. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yo, you scroll back my Instagram. Of course I deleted things. I'm trying to get hired, bro. But like, even like little stuff like this, you can see that there's like a little bit of my brain starting to turn. And the thing about being a good photographer, it's like with anything, you go in with a set intention. So it's starting and saying like, okay, I'm having a day at the beach. What are the things I would normally photograph? So that's my surf, my sand, my water, someone with a towel. What are these details that are gonna like make someone feel like they're there? And sometimes it just takes a while to like train your eye. Remember back when Instagram, well, they still have it, but like the tilt shift on Instagram is like a really big deal.
Yes.
This actually was the first photo I had, I think, that had like 100 likes. I was so pumped about it.
Wow.
But yeah, and so you're seeing all these like remarkably moody images that were taken like an iPhone 4.
That's amazing. I always love seeing like these first
don't even
few
know
shots.
what was going on here.
I'm sure if I scroll down my Instagram, I'd see like my first few like photographs too, and I'm just it's always so cool.
Let's look at what some of these Instagram things here, so we can like talk a little bit about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's hear. This is, make sure to go follow Aundre because he has such a cool account, and that's AUNDRE.
And people ask, I did not pay for my account name.
Amazing.
It just happened.
It just happened that you had.
Shout out to my mom.
Available.
Shout out to Sonia. Just really quick, throughout, if you see or hear anything that means a lot to you, if you tweet it at me or screenshot it and put it on your Instagram story, I'll repost it just so people can see it throughout the day.
Yeah.
But like now, if we just look through images, even like this first photo, this is something I shot for an Apple night mode campaign. And it's super interesting because it's not like a crazy image, it's just an image of what was there. And sometimes finding that main idea for me starts with understanding where the light is, right? And so like if we go back to this first image, you'll see that like this light is kind of coming up from underneath her. I actually brought this little prop to show you guys. I brought this like fun little pro photo light. And the way that it works, also I didn't charge it, I did, is it's just like a little light. But I just wanted to talk about like understanding how when you look for where light's coming from, it can help better inform the images you want to take. So first of all, although I did it here, really shouldn't light anyone from underneath you. It looks like Blair Witch Project and it's terrifying. You always kind of want to start from higher up, and you'll see like as you move, One thing that I
Amazing.
always do when I look at images is I always look at images I like and
Try to study where the
I
light.
try to study where the light's
Yeah,
coming from.
100%.
And like that's super valuable because when you do that, sorry, I thought that I had a window open.
Jan Eric, hello.
Yeah.
Mobile
Hey,
photography
Jan Eric,
workflows,
thank
you
you.
say? I'm in. Yes. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are here with Andre. We have a really fun live stream today, talking about Photoshop and Lightroom mobile photography. So this was actually a shot that he took on the iPhone. So
Yeah, you know what? Let me show you on my actual phone so you guys can kind of get an idea of what I'm saying. And
Perfect.
so I want to start by, showing you how I look at work. And so we talked about like some of my like weird little crummy work. We'll turn this guy off for a second and we'll hop over to my phone. And so here on my phone, this is something my
this
friend
is so
took.
exciting. I've never, I
But-
always love seeing the little iPhone.
Over on Instagram, one of my very, very favorite things is this little feature over here. If you go to your saves, I use this like really religiously as an opportunity to like try to like just understand work better. And so throughout, I'll just save work that I think is super, super cool. So I can look at it later. Sometimes I'll use it
And
for mood
study it.
boards for different shoots I might have. But like along the way, if we're talking about where the light's coming from, this image, you can see the light
Amazing.
is coming in high. Even if you think about when you look at our faces, they can see the light in the reflection of your glasses. And that light is by far the most important thing that you want to deal with as a photographer. Before you figure anything else out, you want to ask yourself, where's this light coming from? You can tell based on the shadows. So here you can see that the light's high in the sky in this photo that Noemi took. Old photo of Kobe Bryant. This photo is cool because it's Kobe Bryant, but it's powerful because in this time of the day, a shadow makes a
Yes.
duality, and all these things work really well. There's duality, there's a shadow, there is like this really kind of nice gradient. It feels very California. But to start, the question is, what story am I trying to tell and what color is it? What light am I getting from there?
Love that.
So I actually pulled
That's very smart to save that and then just like study light, because I think light is such a like an important
always.
element of a photo.
Like we'll look at things and like this feels, think about how this feels very California to you. It's because of the kind of light that you're getting in this
Yes.
daytime, or something that might feel super New York, like this. It's a little grittier,
Yes.
and it has like, this is actually taken in Detroit, but it feels more city.
Yeah.
Just without realizing it, when we live in a place that has really high buildings, the light just looks different. It's obscured differently, and sometimes it can be a little bit kind of more intense versus something that feels more open and free is something that you'd expect in certain areas.
Yeah.
And so I always do this, like, as you can see, like almost every
amazing.
single day, I
Yeah.
just save all these images I think are fun and
So
interesting.
make sure to start using your saves in Instagram,
Yes.
because that is super important.
100%. And
Michelle, thank you. Photography is kind of painting with light.
It
Exactly.
is. Photography is totally painting with light. And then so when you get back to it, you can ask yourself, sometimes it's really simple. You can tell the light's coming from here because it's a window that you've
It's a
seen
window.
before. Something that my friend Ray does, he's really a really talented photographer, and for everyone, I promise we will get into editing soon, but it is so important to me. So it's
It's
if
part
you
of your
think
process.
about,
It's part of your work. So you have to,
yeah.
like share the process behind it.
If you think about light, so light is strongest the closer it is to you, but it's more even the further away. So often when you're taking a portrait of somebody, sometimes it's really helpful to have them in a shadow or on an overcast day, because when you're doing that, sorry, I'm gonna look at my work for a second. When you're doing that, you have different things going on. So hold on, where's this photo? If you look at this photo, I took this on my phone also. I'm trying to start with this so everyone can feel that we're like not being inaccessible. You can tell the light is coming from up high. You can see how this hat is cutting across his face and making this shadow. So like if I were to move, you'll see as the light gets closer, how you find these little hot zones on people's faces. And so sometimes here I just shot him out in the middle of the day, but here you can see if you look at the sky that it's more overcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Geez, sorry. It's more overcast and the light is much more even, so that shadow is softer.
Yeah.
And the reason why you want to have that softer light is it's more, you can see features more easily. So like for my selfie kings and queens or selfie folks,
It's very diffused
it's super
look.
diffused.
It's very soft and very pretty.
So if you look at the difference between when we have this here, or if we take off this little diffuser, it's like way more intense. The diffuser is kind of acts like a little bit of a curtain, and it helps you just have nice even light on your subjects. And that for me is the very first way that you take a great image. Not to say you don't have to take stuff in a with that light all the time. I took this photo of Kevin Bacon, middle of the day. But as you can see, I tucked him in a little corner. And if I ask you where the light's coming from, you can tell that it's coming in from this top left corner and just kind of draping over his face. And so just being really cognizant of what your light is and how to use it is like, that might make you a better photographer by far.
Yeah,
before you think about the colors, before you think about your editing, just starting and being completely mindful.
Pay attention to light.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important to pay attention like throughout the day, even just like, you know, just pay attention where things move and like, you know, pay attention to your shadows even as you're walking across the sidewalk.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Because the sun rises and sets, so as it's lower in the sky, light is changing until it gets into the middle of the day when you're having those really harsh shadows. So like, remember when you were graduating like high school or college and you graduated and you took photos or you had photos taken of you and you just had that like really aggressive like side shadow? Like all you have to do is just kind of step into like a big even shadow.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so this photo, as you guys can imagine, was taken in the middle of the day. You can see it kind of cutting through here, but it was still a slightly softer day. And so when you look through images, that's the thing I would say is if you like someone's photo, always ask yourself like what kind of light are they getting? Because you're never going to replicate someone else's image, but like they can inspire you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it works through. Like this is a photo that's in a really hazy day through some flowers. So you'll see as you look closer on Morgan's face, and we can look at this and how I edited this in a minute. It's just even throughout.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
and that
shot.
Gives you that kind of clarity. Thank you. So,
Ariana says, that's so cool. A lot of stuff that I noticed but never really thought about. Yeah,
shout out to Ariana.
There we go. Michelle says, clouds are a softbox. That's
right.
They are.
They totally are. Because like, if you look at this, like, yeah, this is beautiful and moody here, but you know, there are other ways to do things. In the middle of this day, like it makes sense when I'm shooting this for it to be dark, for it to be really bright and the colors to be really saturated. But often that may not be the most helpful thing.
Jan Eric says, in direct sunlight, everyone looks like raccoons when the sun shadow leaves the dark area in everyone's eyes. Yep. And Michelle says, when I started at my photography college, I had to photograph in black and white only to learn all about light and composition.
Absolutely.
That's definitely a good way to see light.
Left this up for you guys. This is a black and white photo I took in my first photo class that I took.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
And so, where light's coming from, that's number one. Number two for me is what the main idea of my image is. And now that people actually pay me for my work, often it's to help tell some story that they're working on. And so that first thing is, how can I make sure that that what they want to come across comes across? Yeah. And I know it sounds super basic, but just it's always helpful, and starting at that level of simplicity will always really help you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for all that info.
So next up, we're just kind of introing before we do our little chat and win. People always ask me what I shoot with, and so I wanted to show you guys. I literally flew here with this stuff just so people wouldn't argue with me. So it's really simple. I have a Mark IV. That this is not an endorsement for any camera company. This is just what I use. When I shoot, sometimes I shoot for this TV show, United Shades of America with Kamau Bell. Okay. Your Bay Area homie. Yep. On that show, I have to use a silent shutter, so I use a Sony mirrorless. But personally, I really enjoy how this feels. I like looking through the mirror, through the glass, so I can it feels more like I'm part of the image. Yeah. I love this 35-1.4. I shoot with it all the time. And this 50-1.4. The 50-1.4 is maybe my favorite lens. Most things I shoot at this level. The thing I would tell you is whenever you're choosing to buy things, more than buying the camera body, it's getting a camera that works for your budget, and then finding a lens that is the length with which you see the world. So for most people, it's between 28 and 50 millimeters. And when you do that, you can start to just develop seeing something, and then when you pick up your camera, that perspective is still really similar. Yeah. Oh no, he's unsubscribing. I'm so sorry, Jan. Eric, I didn't mean anything. And so basically what I would say is there's a lot of questions about cameras and stuff. Go to a B&H, an Anorama, Best Buy, whatever. Pick them up and play with them. Yeah. People always ask me, and I always want to tell you, like, the question will be answered based on your own comfort level. And when you start to create, you want to make sure that you're creating on your terms. And so doing it with something that feels right to you is by far the best option.
And like if you can rent equipment too, like
There it
that
is.
is
Yep.
the best thing, because then you really get to just play with it in real life. And you know, it's so hard to do research online. You know, you kind of have to have it right in front of you to test it. The same way that, like, you know, when you're working with studio lights or that kind of thing, it's very yeah, you need to just like use it. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to know, you know, what works for you.
And so, to talk more about my idea, here's a little bit more of my work. This is when, and so I showed you that Mark IV. I was shooting this with like whatever the entry-level Canon was, like that Rebel 10X.
Yes, Rebel.
I don't know what it's
something.
called because I'm trying to.
I feel like my entry level was like Rebel T3i, or sorry, no, I got the Canon PowerShot S5IS, but then I did Rebel T3i.
Wow, look at you.
And then but I don't know. Yeah, what was your first camera?
My first camera was a Fuji Finepix.
Oh,
and then
that.
the button stopped working, and my mom bought me an Xbox for Christmas one year because she's like, look at you, like being an adult. And I was like, I would actually prefer if I got a new camera, please. And she was like, okay, and here we are.
Here we are.
And so back when I thought I was real cool, and I was applying for photo internships that I got none of. Here are some photos that I took by I finished this up I graduated in 2013. So here's an accident photo I took of Frank Ocean.
I love it.
This is just a random smoking photo that I thought was cool. A Boy Scout making a fire. There was a period when I was really trying to impress people by saying like I took a photo of Michelle Obama.
I mean, that's a pretty impressive photo.
But as you can see, like all these things are fine, but at this point I hadn't really like started to develop whatever my style was. And so these were just kind of moments.
It's one of those things where you just shoot everything, right? Until you figure
everything
it out.
you have available to. And that is by far the thing I want to talk about the most and will always push in is what can you do more of? Finding perspective. I love this photo.
I love it.
Although right after this guy like dislocated his
oh no.
collarbone. I remember this very well. I was horrified. And so, you know, finding what is in your neighborhood that you can shoot, whether that's, I remember when I first went to New York, I ran into this film photographer and he told me, he's like, for the next year, photograph your street every single day. I didn't do it, but it was definitely advice that I think a lot about.
Yeah.
And very often now when you look at my work, it's very focused on, you know, things I have available to me, stories that I'm aware of. You guys can see I have this Nation of Newcomers project I did that was about immigration, which started with understanding that I came here. This project I did with Uber was all about Brooklyn and about the people that I met on this one street on Myrtle Avenue. And like the most powerful story that you can tell for yourself is what you have access to because you can go back to it. And so that's what we're going to talk about more, but I'm happy that we took this like intro time to just kind of lay the groundwork for how we think about images.
I really like that concept of like, what you have access to. And like, almost like, I mean, when you're first starting out, like, that's actually something that I did too. I like shot like my whole street because I was like, well, I can't really afford to go anywhere else. So I'm just going to do what's right here, what's available to me. And I like that advice.
Absolutely. Some of the best photographers that I know are so talented and they spend so much time making sure they document their streets. And like there's like a really great responsibility for us as like creatives in general, for designers, for illustrators to like be the art for that time. And since we're so connected with the internet now, it's easier to access everything. But like that stuff is really, really valuable because over time it provides context for that area.
Yeah, you're so right. That's so true. Oh, Valentine says, love photographing the everyday of life. That's awesome.
Shout out to Steve.
Shout out Taylor. My first camera was my old Nokia N95 XD.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Did Nokia make cameras?
I didn't even know.
Bro, I don't know. I'm sorry about that. I for a second, I mean, the only Nokia I think about is that N-Gage when they made those like, okay, sorry. And so, we're going to get into my work right after this, but I know we're about to do this chat and win.
So make sure you stay active in the chat. Everyone mentioned what their first camera was or what their first thing was.
First camera for me was after the Fuji. Before that, I would, my friend Katie would let me borrow her Canon AE1 or the Pentax K1000.
Oh my gosh.
And I used to
I've been wanting a Pentax K1000 for a long time.
I love that camera.
I have the Nikon FM10, the film camera, and it's so good.
It's really nice, and it's really, really manageable. So I took it with me when I went to Jamaica that year as a young lad.
Oh. All right, you guys, we will be back in just a little bit. Chat and Win is happening now, so make sure you say something in the chat for a chance to win some stickers. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Hello, welcome back. We are waiting to hear who is going to be the winner of our stickers from Sticker Mule. Shout out. Ooh, hi Austin. Oh, a Kodak Extralight?
I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
There are so many things that...
I don't know. Yeah, same.
And that's why we were saying that you want to make sure that you are, that whatever camera you purchase makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what you shot it on. And so after we find out, I wanted to talk about just from rip how I use Lightroom. So I'm gonna hop over to my computer.
Cool. I think we're waiting for the winner still, so we'll wait for a second.
Sit here, dance a little bit.
Almost there.
I'm surprised you took all my photos down in like 4 seconds. I can't believe it.
Someone said a Kodak camera. Ooh, Valentine.
Shout out time.
Is it Valentine or Valentine?
Shout out.
Shout out. You are the winner of our stickers. You will receive a message on Behance to redeem those. And if you didn't win, it is okay because you can still go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live 19 and you'll get 10 stickers for $1. And that's the deal, which is great. Love stickers. So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Thanks, you guys.
So let's hop over to Lightroom. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. In here, our most recent image is this sweet selfie.
Love
because
it.
I lost sunglasses, bought them again, and then lost them this morning. She was with me.
Oh my
and the security person to come bring them.
Yes.
So my process is really simple. I have a card reader. I plug it into my MacBook Pro. When you do over here, something will pop up and say, hey, do you want to import images? It's not going to say that now because I don't have anything in there. And then what I normally do is I do this on my Mac Mini at home. I have a Mac Mini that's plugged into a screen. After each shoot, I shoot, and then I name. This is number one. Please do this, guys. Organize your images. I never did this before. I used to just like put them in folders with funny names and then could never find anything.
Oh my gosh.
And so I always do month, year, day, _ the client. Or if it's just something personal I did. And so it's always easy to find everything.
I love that.
And so I have my initial things here. And then when I'm finished with them, I have them in a folder called Finals. And so Lightroom is great for a lot of reasons, but let me just point out a couple. Really fast here, there's this new screen that they're working really hard on, particularly with these interactive edits and guided tutorials. And
That's
so when
amazing.
you go in, it'll show you, I have a couple in here, so I'm kind of hoping that I can find one. Sorry, to show you guys, but basically the idea is that as you work through, you can see how these photographers, myself included, worked on, like, edited through stuff. Okay, so
That's amazing.
let's see. I thought I was an intermediate, but maybe I'm not that special.
Oh no.
That's okay. And so this really helps when people say, like, hey, how did you edit this? How did you do this? It's a lot easier because here when you click in, it'll show you. My only beef is that you can't, like, I couldn't preload it. So forgive me. Here, actually, it's the very last one. Great.
Love it.
And so when you click on it, it tells you exactly what you're going to learn. It tells you what you're going to use. It tells you that people liked it, 95%.
Way to go, Adobe.
Do not
That's
vote
really
this down
cool.
or I'm coming for you. And then when you start the tutorial, it legitimately walks you through it. And the reason why this is important is it shows you how the tools work, which we're going to talk about more here.
That's really great.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually going to do a ton more of
I
these.
use the classic Lightroom, so I actually haven't even seen this. This is amazing.
Dude, it's serious.
Wow.
Here. So you click through, it talks about light. I am actually writing a bunch of new ones, and so I'm pretty excited. But it talks about like how I want to add contrast, and you get to the next points with ease. You can interact with stuff, and after you do it, it walks you along, and you can also do it on your phones. So if you're at a stoplight, drive safely. Or if you're on the train like I am, or you're at like a family reunion that you want to not pay attention at, this is really good because then it starts to walk you through like, this is how I would
That's really
work here.
cool. That's very useful.
And so, yeah, let's get out of this guy. But it's just super helpful. After I do that, I have my finals. And one thing that's really nice about Lightroom, among things, is you can share your folders after. And the people that, with clients, like if we worked on a project, I can share it with you and you can comment and you can like stuff. And what I used to do is I would use like a storage-based system and share a folder.
And have them add.
WeTransfer or whatever. And then they would write out all this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just a difficult thing for clients. But even if you're just doing it with your friends, it's easier if like I take a great photo of you and you want to share it. So anyway, this is kind of how I work through stuff. Not everyone can do this because storage is expensive. But over time it will get cheaper and these things will work. After I like go ahead and import things, if I know that, oh, this was such a lovely man.
I
love kind old men. They're so nice. There's so few of them. So when I find a nice one, and so after I import there, it'll take a little bit for everything to back up, but then you'll see I can open the same image right on my phone.
Oh.
So now my phone's gonna pop up. You guys are gonna be amazed because shout out to everyone that works really hard behind the scenes to make sure this looks good.
That's so cool.
And you guys will see that now.
I love this like seamlessness.
This is the same image. And you have almost all the functionality on mobile that you do right here
really cool.
on the computer. And so how I actually use it is sometimes I do edit. I definitely edit on my phone, but one of the big things I actually do is I make selects. And so today what we're gonna do is I took some photos of my friend George. He is an incredible musician. We actually went to high school together. Took a bunch of portraits of him. And what I'm gonna do is actually talk to you guys about how I make selects. And so these are the raw images. There's nothing in here that I've done with any of these, but I wanted to start, just like I told you guys, with the main idea. And so his album is basically, the idea is like a long time coming. He spent a long time working on this. He's actually has a doctorate. And so he spent most of the time in academia, and he spent a lot of time working on these things, little by little. And so this is supposed to be very honest and very soft, right? So first, I'm sure you can tell the light's coming from behind me, the photographer, and directly on him. It gives like a nice sense of who he is, and I used a smaller aperture number to make sure that I had really nice depth of field.
Yeah.
If I didn't remember,
soft on the outer.
I popped in. You can pop into info. So like in here, there's rate interview activity. Activity would be how if I shared the images with him, I could see who liked it and commented on it. And then info tells you all the details about how I shot it, the name, all of this stuff.
All
good
those
morning,
camera
Eric.
settings.
All the settings, and these are actually important because once you know where the light's coming from, and it's someone that you know as a photographer, instead of saying like, what filter did you use or anything, you can just say, hey, how did you shoot it, or like what focal length did you use? Because then you start to understand, what's going on next. And so what I would do is, and I actually want to do this live with you guys, is I would then start to click through and start to make selects. So I would click away from info and go to rate and review. And so speed review, it just showed you slide up to flag or unflag. And then you slide to the side to star
a little rating.
And so I always star. Remember in Lightroom Classic, you can star and color, which always kind of a little interesting. But I would tell you not to worry too much because you can do a lot of work on your image afterward. Always, it's better to have an image that's darker than brighter. That's something to kind of bring up. So let's say like this image.
That's really cool.
This one I also like because by obscuring just the top of his head, you can really feel like you're kind of stepping into his personality a little sooner. And sometimes accidents happen. You guys will see this one's actually kind of soft. It's not super sharp.
That like is still beautiful. I don't know. Sometimes you just, so it's important to like go through and just,
And if you're a portrait photographer, it's helpful for you to move around your image. You can like help move around your subject because just like with when the light moves, different parts of our face looks good.
Yeah.
So like you have a middle part, and so actually it's really easy if I want to take a portrait on both sides of your face. But if your part was on one side or the other.
Yes.
No, this is not, Drew, these are not phone photos. We went over some earlier, and we will be doing more phone photos tomorrow, but right now we're working on these photos I took on my Mark IV.
Thank you, Drew, for commenting in. If you're just joining us, we are here with Aundre Larrow. He's working on some fun Lightroom and Photoshop mobile photography, showing us a little bit of the features as he's working it in mobile. So, this is so fun.
So what I did with these were, I actually only included this image so you guys could see it. I took pieces of
like the cellophane
and I crumpled it just so you guys. So
gorgeous.
I did shoot this with y'all in mind. So you'll see here when you look at this image, you can tell where the light's coming from in his face, right? So then now with this crushed cellophane, you can then see how that light's being refracted. And so it's always fun to kind of try different stuff. And here on this, you can see that the idea was for us to kind of see him in this kind of soft
obsessed.
little Vogue way.
That is gorgeous.
And to be at peace, right?
It's always fun when you can add that texture by just putting something in front of your
Absolutely.
lens.
Big texture fan. Foreground, background, all day. So we're just gonna get a couple because I know that we have, I can't just sit here the whole time and just be that person. But what I'm looking for are images that make me feel that initial sense of peace that we were talking about.
That coming home, long time coming.
Yeah. And so
That's
here,
beautiful.
there's something really peaceful about this. I used orange here. And then what I did was I turned on an additional light that was a different color to try to give it this kind of weird feeling to it. I'm a big fan of Frank Ocean. And so I was trying to ask myself, what would I like to shoot that would feel in the kind of the same vein as that song In My Room by Frank Ocean. So then I took George on the roof, and we shot a lot of different things. And so just to start, maybe something that I like about this image is since George is a little darker skinned, I can shoot him directly into the sun and doesn't blow his skin out. And so that's maybe something I can't do with a person who's maybe white with really blonde hair.
More fair
because
skin
it might,
too.
It might blow out. And so there's just little things you can kind of pay attention to, but let's grab a couple of these. I like this image. It feels very nice, simple. I still shot a short aperture here. And then, I started to kind of cut in and give him more this feeling of infiniteness. He's outside, he's in a space that, and these red dots are on so you guys can see. I promise I don't normally edit like that because that would be weird. These are here so you can,
It's beautiful.
You can kind of make, I think eye contact is really, really valuable. And you'll see that I chose to shoot him from his right side. That's the side that I thought, I felt like I got more of his face on.
Ooh, I like these hair toss.
Yeah, and so you can see how I'm making selects
Love that.
in ways that feel natural. And something that's really helpful if you're unsure is talking to that person. That's why the first time I make selects, I share that with them and then ask them if they have anything they'd like to add, because there might be something I miss seeing, or if it's a big enough project, I have someone else to work. Hey, Kathleen. Kathleen was on earlier, and we both have black denim jackets.
Yes.
Mine advocates for a shorter work week on the back. Not that I'm saying we should work less hard, just, we should all have a little more time to work on cool stuff like this.
Yes.
And so, we're going to go ahead and look through these guys. This is something I do a lot on the train and on the bus, because it helps me feel like I have a little bit more time. And so give me probably 60 more seconds of selects.
Of course.
And then we will.
I do want to remind everybody that we do have the design feedback in about 45 minutes. So if you would like Aundre to give some feedback, make sure to submit your challenge. Thank you, Kathleen, for giving us the challenge of the day. And if you haven't watched it, it basically was to design an event poster using brushes and custom textures. So you can watch the replay of that and submit, because in about 45 minutes we'll get to review those, and we're excited to see what you'll create.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
and always be excited to create. Something you guys will notice that's very basic that kind of pops in here is we did a very primary color palette, blues, yellows, reds.
I love that.
And so that's not on accident. And also, these aren't the world's greatest photos. I don't want you to think that. I'm just telling you how I thought about my process.
It's so funny, interesting to see like how much like more popular primary colors have gotten recently, especially. Like for a while it was kind of like a lot of pastels and like soft colors, and now it's very primary, like those bright, punchy colors, which is super fun.
Something that helps me when I think about color is just mood, and we'll definitely talk about this editing wise. And it's something that I like to work with. Like you'll see this angle is something that I actually learned like watching a lot of movies. I'm like never watched a movie with me. I habitually rewind and look through and ask myself like how things made me feel. But as we work through here, the idea is for it to feel like really free, like we talked about.
Do you feel like your work has like a cinematography like
I would
vibe to
certainly hope so. This is the sweetest thing ever.
Because I mean like I know that sometimes like that can provide a lot of inspiration for angles and the way that you capture people.
No, yeah, it's like definitely my hope is for it to feel like it's part of a movie.
Yeah,
and
like
that
a
like
still.
yeah. And so what you're gonna see is after I finish making these selects, we're gonna train to the iPad, it's just gonna be there and it's awesome. So I finish up, I sit down, and then I work from there. And so the sheet stuff I know is interesting because I'm sure you guys all know there's some things that do great on Instagram aren't always the best thing for the client. So sometimes it's helpful to have stuff on both sides of what you want to do.
Yes. Good point.
And so here, like the idea was when you shoot someone at a low angle, you make them seem larger. And I wanted to give some sort of context. And a sheet is like a fantastic piece of intimacy. I just want to show you how we used it afterward.
That angle's very powerful.
And it feels also like he's fighting against something that is very overwhelming. And that to me is like a really important thing. I think a lot about like, I try to take notes based on how I feel and use things after.
I like that. I like that.
And so we have all this stuff, and then I took him downstairs and did a very like New York thing that I really, really like.
Kathleen says there's a nice balance of close-up and wide shots.
Thank you, Kathleen.
And Jan Eric says these has that anamorphic feel to them, even if they're not that aspect ratio.
Dude, shout out to anamorphic. Shout out to Moment Lens with the anamorphic lens. I got to try it out.
What's an anamorphic?
It's like it's a different crop that like, sometimes when you see scenes in like train stations or different things where you can see the lights kind of drag, it's like a different way to, it's just like a different lens. So it like treats lights differently.
That's so cool.
So even these, you see the goal here was for him to look like he was at home. I gave him direction to say like, I want you to look around and, like you're in your own element. Here we have him even like climbing up, and then to end through, I wanted to show you guys how he ended up wrapping
that yellow
sheet.
sweater.
Yeah. So we had him here
so
natural, and it was toward the end of the day. And so the selects I'm making all feel like, to me, they're translating what the original vision was. And if we talk about it later and he says that's not the case, then I make sure that I am amenable to the truth of like, what someone believes their work is supposed to be. And so this image, I feel like, for whatever reason, is more honest than this one. This guy just really sits well with me of like something that feels right. And that's kind of what it is. You build your taste over time. Yeah. So we got some of these, shot this, and then kind of called it a day. So now I'm going to pull this guy. We're going to go over to the iPad, and then I'm going to play with the pencil a little bit. And yes, I have to change drives. That drive needs more storage, yeah. So here we're on the iPad. I'm using the iPad Pro. Tim.
Oh, thank you, Tim. He says, an anamorphic lens compresses the scene horizontally so you can fit more content on the same sensor size. Afterwards, you can expand the photo again to get a cinematic wide shot. That's awesome. Really, really cool. I like that.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Tim's always offering like the best information. He's great.
Thank you, Jan. Yeah, so I thought about that. And so now we can see everything.
Jan says many of those would be killer album covers.
That's all I want to do. All I want to do is shoot album covers. So now, let's say I've sat down. I'm a big fan of, J.J. Abrams. So Tim was saying that these lenses usually produce a shiny lens flare, as you love. If you think of J.J. Abrams. Yep.
Yes.
And so here on Lightroom, there's this little guy right here that lets you filter by. So we don't have any editeds. Let's go. Oh, maybe our Wi-Fi isn't working all the way that we want to. Am I not on it all the way? Oh no, I didn't get on our Wi-Fi. So the selects I made were
We'll
a
get
little
it for
silly.
you.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let's switch back over to my computer.
It's that little post-it note right there. Yeah, there we go.
And I will.
Perfect.
I will get on our Wi-Fi, you guys.
Oh, Kathleen says Tim is Adobe Sensei. He literally knows everything.
Oh,
Tim Adobist.
Shout out to Adobe Sensei.
Aw. Well, Tim, you are great. Thanks for always offering all the best info and explaining everything in a very timely manner. Awesome.
If you guys have any questions,
Oh
please,
yeah,
this is a good
any
time.
questions throughout the stream, Aundre would be happy to answer.
Sorry, I completely forgot to log into the internet on my iPad because I was just so excited to get in here, and then we were talking, making like
Yes.
silly videos before to promo things. 1 second, guys.
Yeah, so make sure that you are that you submit to the challenge for today, because we'll be reviewing that in under 40 minutes. And Kathleen gave that intro challenge, so make sure to watch the replay. It should be in the challenge tab right above the chat.
Yeah, no, you guys that are doing daily challenges, shout out to how hard you're working.
I know, I love Adobe Live and the challenges. I think it's a really great way to encourage people to learn and create and just like, you know, test out things. And yeah, it's really great.
Hey, iPad, you want to do what I want? Okay, so now we got on the internet and immediately these selects are here. And so you guys will see we worked through stuff, we picked a couple things, and they are here. And so the seamless process, the process for me is really seamless and really helpful because I'm often working on different things and in different ways. And so basically the iPad for me is actually how I mainly edit projects until they're ready for export. I export them actually on my computer. I don't have any particular reason for it. It just feels better for me. And so often with my phone, I will shoot mobile, I will edit mobile, but I actually really like working on the iPad because it's big and I really like it. What's free? What's Kathleen talking about?
Oh, Adobe Live and all the challenges.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what's free. Yes. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. And Alberto said, oh yeah, definitely check your Instagram followers to like figure out when they're coming out and optimize reach. So now that we have some selects that we like, there's a lot of questions about how we want to edit it.
Yeah.
And so since we still talked about things being very kind of soft, relaxed, moody, I actually want to start with this image where his eyes are closed. So always,
that.
first and foremost, always have my,
You know what this kind of reminds me?
what?
Like the Aura
yeah.
photographs.
Yeah, actually, yeah, totally.
Right?
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got excited.
No, totally. Like the ones where it tells, like, it's like your aura and like the colors all are supposed to like make sense.
That would be a great job to get because people would really, really use that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to start, mood-wise, I know sometimes we have this urge to like brighten things up or darken them a lot. We should remember that your exposure brightens and darkens everything in the image. And so sometimes what you might actually want to do, instead of just getting astronomically brighter, is playing with your highlights.
Yes.
So you'll see how this purple's changing right
Yes,
here. So it's like giving you this kind of aggressive feeling that's weirdly drawing like attention to his face. And so always with Lightroom, you can press and hold and see what your before and after is. And let's actually bring the whole thing a little bit brighter. We talked about.
Yes.
Next for me, sometimes contrast is great. You can like increase that, but sometimes without realizing it, it makes these colors really intense. So I actually like to bring my contrast down a little. And so we have this like kind of slightly flatter image. It's a little grayer, but it feels like a little more even to like a palette to kind of work with. And so instead of like, let's say for example, a lot of times when people are photographing darker skinned people, or especially people that don't look like them, they want to go ahead and play with exposure to brighten things up. But oftentimes you can use your shadows. If you look at how George's skin is changing in either direction to get a little bit of that detail back that you might want, whether it's in your hair, skin tone, etc. But now that we have this like kind of flatter base,
That's beautiful.
then we can kind of head over here, which is where I do a lot of my work, in your temperatures, your tints, but mainly between vibrance and saturation. So vibrance is really nice because it is like a smart version of saturation. You guys see if I start to saturate how everything's getting, this yellow's getting really aggressive, and it's really overpowering the image. And the original goal for this was for it to be soft and for it to translate kind of the vision for his work. And so when I start with vibrance, you'll start to see that this purple's getting a little bit stronger, but that yellow is actually staying the same.
Yeah.
It's just not a lot's happening.
No, yeah, it's awesome.
And we're going from a little bit of a kind of flatter image to something nice here. Oh, Rob Zilla's here. Hello, Robert. Robert's here to talk a little mess. If you guys don't know, Rob is possibly the greatest Pokemon trainer and even better illustrator. So please make sure you check out his work. Also, thank you guys for having like a really positive chat in here.
Yeah,
like, I really
we
like
love
hopping
it.
in, seeing something cool.
Aw, Hugo. Cheers to auras. That's awesome. Yeah, if you guys are just joining us, we're here with Aundre. He is showing us a little bit of his workflow in Lightroom. Right now he's working on his, what do you call this?
Oh, on my iPad.
Your iPad.
iPad with some pictures of my friend George for a
Love it.
album cover.
Album cover.
But I mean, tomorrow I feel like we should take your photo. You guys, she came in here dressed to kill. She's great slacks on. I'm not even wearing pants, so.
But hey, you've got the cool denim jacket that says Saturday, Saturday, Saturday,
I will 100%
Sunday,
show you guys this.
So, really, like, you're the cool one over here.
So we're talking about like how to make this feel. Look at Rob is like so popular. People
I
are
know,
going
people
out of their
love
way
Rob.
to say like, "Hey, Rob, see me."
We
Appreciate
do only
your-
have the coolest chat. Like,
That's
we
very
have
true.
the coolest chat.
Kathleen, also, can we do one where I go on to yours and you just illustrate me? Like that's all I
my gosh,
want in my
love
life. But that's for another time. And so next for me, I actually really like texture. So you'll see that it gives a little bit of that.
Just a little bit of detail.
That detail that I was talking about before that I like to get in my images. So I really don't like to push many of these features too far. Oh, Alberto, Rob and I play Pokemon Sword and Shield. And if any of you guys do that, we have a really awesome Instagram group where we talk about it. But so for me, I really like using clarity and texture. I feel like it gives a little punch, so you guys will start to see we're getting some of that detail back here. And so we have a little bit of clarity, and you're seeing some grain being added here around this area where your eye is naturally hitting. So a lot of times when you shoot, something to keep in mind is that your viewer will always look at the brightest part of your image first. Like that's the part that attracts them.
Natural.
And so figuring out ways from there to like fill out the rest of the image is really, really helpful. And one of the reasons why I shot this so high with some space up here was so that if he wanted to put some text on there or something, it worked a little bit better. And those are always helpful to questions to ask.
That might even look good as like a Instagram story potentially too.
Yeah.
It's always good to think about like dimensions and things, especially for, when you're working with like a musician. There's a lot of platforms and things that.
So many of them. And like this between Twitter, Instagram, everything has like a slightly different
Everything has a thing. Everything has a thing.
Alberto asked, "Are you using some kind of special screen protector for your iPad, like the paper texture ones?"
Special. Oh, well, so these images, right? You didn't take them on an iPad.
No.
These were images that you took with your camera.
Yes.
And he used.
Now I'm using
cellophane to put over the.
A little bit of cellophane. So it's those like light gels that you get. And I crumpled them so that you're getting this kind of color burn that you could make in Photoshop, but I'm not that cool. So you'll see these bright edges, but then these like kind of softer things that remind you of the sun.
Yeah, so these are images were taken in the camera, and he took them over into the Lightroom in the iPad. So, yeah.
So for on dehaze, I really wanted to play with dehaze here because I wanted to see how it acted with this area. And actually, as you see, as we pull up dehaze, we're getting this like really lovely kind of second light pink detail. So if you look at the difference between where we are here and here now, we're in this space. And then now let's say I think that I lost a little bit of detail now. It's maybe a little too flat. I'm able to come back over and add a little bit of that contrast
More of that
back.
contrast now, yeah.
And now we've added that contrast, but with the dehaze, he's looking a little purple. And so this is all like a balancing game. I can go back here and use my very favorite tool in color over here next to black and white. Let's say black and white for a second. Now we're good. Let's go back. We can hit this little guy, the color mix tool. This eyedropper is also useful because you can use it to find the white. So if you do that, you'll actually, I can bring it off of that purple, but I like that color for now.
Yeah.
Let's go back. I think this is a little too purple. So here on color mix, this is the thing we're going to talk about. I will talk about this tomorrow. I will talk about this every day for the rest of my life. You are selecting colors and you can alter them. So we're going to start with yellow just so you can see how it works. Hue is the hue of the image. And so you'll see how the hue and the yellow is changing as we slide it across to a greener, to a more orange, etc. on both sides. The saturation is the same thing as before, but it's only how saturated that color is. So you'll see this yellow is getting really muted, or this way you see it's getting really powerful. So I actually might bring that down a little bit, but the luminance is the thing that really, really interests me because it's how bright that color is in the space. So here you can see it's too dark. I like it a little bit softer. And the reason why we brought this whole thing up is to look at what happens if we change this purple. So let's change, you see if we take the saturation out, we're losing a lot, or gaining it. And so actually, if we bring this over a little bit, this blue is a little better because it works well with this kind of red spot.
It works with the yellow too.
And then if we just bring down our luminance, now we're in the spot where we went from here to here. It feels a little ethereal.
It does.
And so now we're kind of back. I actually might add a little bit more texture and a little bit more, that's another thing. I did it on accident, but if you double tap at any point, if you double tap the button, it'll go right back to
the middle,
the original.
Yeah.
And Lightroom is non-destructive, so that means that anything that you edit, you can come back from at any point. So let's kind of bring
that's the beauty.
Our contrast up. That's too much. Let's bring our shadows down a little bit so we still have that detail. Right now, this little spot right here is bothering me, where you can see his skin looks uneven, but that's just because you can see even here, that's like what it was lit like. And so now we're like a little too bright. Let's come down. And then we can use another thing that's actually really good. I'm using the iPad Pro and the pencil, and I really, really enjoy the pencil. Jan said, I wish that Lightroom Classic looked as modern as Lightroom CC. Yes and no. I mean, they do serve some different features. I use Classic still when I do bigger projects. So if I shoot something, you have to tether it. Excuse me. So tethering is the process of taking an image, or you're shooting live. There's a cord plugged directly in my camera. I'm shooting live. And the client is like looking kind of over your shoulder, talking and asking more questions, and it's easier than having something on a smaller screen. I also use it when I'm doing larger projects that I don't want to sync into my Lightroom Cloud. So you can see Cloud right now. But the way it works is then I get it exported, and I also can export for different sizes simultaneously in Lightroom Classic. And so some of those things are supposed to be marketed toward specific pro users, but it just really depends on the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I was saying before I interrupted myself somehow is going over here, besides the edit bay, they are presets, always great.
I love presets.
And I have a lot of them. People ask about this all the time. There's some that Adobe made that you can use, like Greg Noir's black and white pack.
Yeah.
Please don't. And also, let's get out of that. There's also my friend Sam's different things that he has, and you can just see how these things work. That's kind of a nice one. And you can use it. The thing that's nice about presets is if you're unsure, you can I have a lot of Visco ones that I paid for. Let's say we did this, right? You can hit done, and then you can see the changes it made. If you go through the color, how it slid through and made changes for you. So let's hop out of that and get back. So essentially all I did was this is just a warmer version. That's the one I had is slightly bluer, this is slightly warmer. That's interesting for me, and I actually might keep it because I like that it kind of solved that little spot for me. But let's say that I didn't have it. We're gonna go down. After that, we have our crop tool. This lets us rotate.
Nice.
And most importantly, it lets us choose aspect ratio, which is really good. because when you're using your aspect ratio, you can get it optimized for whatever applications you need.
Yeah.
And remember, all this functionality exists on your phone also. So when you're working for your social
that's
media
amazing.
people, when you're talking about Visco C7, shout out to Kathleen, and shout out to, Steve, Terry is awesome. Terry doing that demo of tethering. Terry's really kind to me and has spent a lot of his time taking my phone calls. So always shout out to Terry and pay homage to the people that paved the way for you. Okay, so after that, we have this little thing called the healing brush, and it works really similarly to how it works on Photoshop. And so let's say I notice this little bit of his hair over here that you guys can see. Oh, let's actually get rid of this guy for now. So sorry, you can see it here. There's one here, there's one here. Oop. I want to maybe just get that to be a little cleaner. I can just select that spot, and then let me zoom this in. I can increase the size by sliding this up, just like you guys saw, and then having it sample another area of pixels for the thing to be gone. And so you guys will see how that thing comes in and out. And we don't need to do a ton here, but like let's say for some reason I thought George's skin wasn't like perfect. This is actually a good example. When you zoom in, you'll see it's like a slightly blurry. This is something I probably should have used a tripod for, just because the light was like a little bit low. This is actually some good questions that we should stop to. Okay, so what happened? Photoshop still has raw camera presets. Yes, it does. Love it. I use Visco, then Lightroom Mobile happened. You can still use the two things together. I have a Visco membership, and I obviously use all these Lightroom things. They basically, for me, I have some of these presets from before when they sold the packs.
Yes.
And then when this Lightroom came out, I exported the presets from Lightroom Classic and then just uploaded them here and worked on it that way.
Yeah.
And so, Jan, you might be able to buy an old. Jan said that they abandoned their desktop users. I can't speak to that, but you can probably find an old kit. You can purchase it, and then with this Lightroom, you can sync it across your desktop and mobile, and you can still work with everything. And if not, there's still like a world of people that have made really excellent presets.
Yes.
And you can also make your own. So
Maston Labs, there's Tribe Archipelago, Red Tribe Leaf or something like that. There's a lot of good ones out there.
A lot of really good ones. I need to double check. I don't know if I can make a preset here on that might be a functionality just for the computer, but other thing to point out before I forget, and we're going to spend more time on it tomorrow, over here are these profiles. They're essentially... how
would you say this is different
from
a preset?
From a preset is it allows you to start, it's your base point. So it is, like the preset when you hit it, it will then move sliders for you so that it gets to that point. This is your base plate. Like here on this. So it's a little different because it's essentially picking your camera function or color function early. And so you can play with presets together. So like even for this, for example, is really interesting because you see it's changing the color profile where now the shadow is going to like a red and a purple. So now we got to this really ethereal level. And then also on here, you can slide it to make the preset less useful or more. And you'll see that using in the middle is actually really helpful because it lets you sit through that. So this vintage is really interesting. And you'll see as it works through, it's really,
that's so
it's
cool.
changing your base colors in this way that.
And these are already
these are all preloaded.
Available.
I didn't make.
Amazing.
I didn't make any of these guys.
Very cool.
Oh, and Kathleen pointed out that Kendall made some great landscape presets. Kendall is awesome. Shout out to Kendall, who works at Adobe. Big fan, super kind human, and makes awesome work. So definitely check out those presets that they made. And Rob asked, aren't previous versions still available on CC? Previous versions of what, Rob?
Yeah.
Just to make sure, I don't want to speak to something. So anyway, we'll actually leave this because I like it.
That's beautiful.
But
it's kind of giving me like Euphoria vibes.
So I brought down my exposure just a little bit so we didn't lose him in it. Okay, so we use the healing brush, but what I've been trying to get to for a while is the selective edits. And so selective edits is interesting because you can do all those things that we showed you in the edit panel, but to one really specific spot. And so let's say that that area that was a problem, but we colored it out. We can choose it. We can paint it in. It's a little harder to see. You guys see how it's getting red here? Let's say that I thought that this area was a little too bright. It's too much of a hot spot, which is something I should have solved earlier when I was photographing, but yes, Kendall, show Kendall some love. Or sorry, yes, Kathleen, show Kendall love. Kendall Plant is the homie. I hope she sees this later and understands that we appreciate her. So now as we're editing, let's say that I thought that was too bright. I can darken that one area. I'm not saying that that would be something that would make sense. I'd probably more than likely just bring down my highlights a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So you guys will see as I'm changing it, you'll see how
it's like
it's giving you a little bit of. So the main problem I had just now is I selected too big of an area. So let's try this again. We'll start with this area. Over here is the size of the brush. Lets you change it by dragging up and down. Over here is the feather, and you guys know what feather means. It's just how strong it is on the edges. And then this is the flow, so like how much comes out at once. And I would always tell you to bring the flow down a little bit so that you can kind of fill this out slowly. So here let's just go over it softly on the spot. And then let's just go down a little bit in our highlights. And if you're not sure if it works or not, just go ahead and pull it away. And so it's just a tiny bit softer. And so here we're still seeing that like hot zone I said. And so we're gonna try to work on some stuff here. Thank you guys for kind of bearing with me. I know we've had a really fascinating period of time, so we'll bring that in. We have these guys. So then color, let's see. It's amazing that this is all
in this app. It's like it was so crazy.
I'm not even playing. We're serious out here.
How stoked were you when it became a thing?
It was awesome because I didn't really understand how it worked before, and so then getting to play with things that were confusing to me previously were really helpful.
Yeah. It's a challenge, but then then it becomes the best thing.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So you guys can see.
Oh my gosh, what a difference.
So you guys can see we just made it a little bluer. Came over.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Made it a little bit more even.
And so it's just a touch more even. It might be a little too strong, and let's say that we thought that. We can go back to this portion, go back to color, and just make these, and it's really softly in here. And so now we have something that feels like ethereal, it feels interesting, and basically we are working toward a little vision.
Yeah, it looks so beautiful.
Rob said colors. Lightroom. I'm assuming you mean that you can get old versions of presets and add them to Lightroom, and yes, you absolutely can. And there are other things in here going on about potential editing or something. But I guess thank you guys for kind of heading into that. So I'm just going to go a little quicker because I know we have a little bit of time before we start doing feedback.
Yes. I love these ones. They're so beautiful.
I would 100%.
Are you also doing the wait? Are you still doing cellophane on here?
Cellophane, but I did a clear one, and instead of using the light from the window, I used just an older orange light. So very first, I'm bringing this clarity up.
Beautiful.
Let's bring this contrast down a little, because this is too much for me, and I like flattening them out a little. So you'll see as we move this around, I'm not sure that using the same idea of how bright it is going to work here necessarily, but I will say that in here we've lost some detail, and so we can see little bits of highlights in his hair, but we can't see differences, and part of that's the depth of field, but also if we just brighten our blacks a little bit. Something to keep in mind when you plus your blacks, so the plus and minus work the same for whites and blacks. Plus white means brighter whites, plus blacks means brighter blacks. Negative blacks means darker blacks. Negative white means, so if you guys just look at how the whites change in the image, it's the same thing. So I know it's confusing because you think plus black means that.
It's always good to just like move that slider like completely all the way to the left or right, just to see what it hits or what, you know, what it picks up. And then from there, you can just make minor adjustments after that.
Yep. And so actually, this one, it would have really helped since we were playing with vintage earlier. I really wanted to switch it to this vintage 6. Yes. And the reason why is you'll see we started with something that
it's
was
funny
really,
that you said
bright.
Vintage, because somebody just mentioned, Jan Eric was like, these images have a 70s vibe to them.
They do. And I am not ashamed to use profiles and presets. People sometimes are like, oh, like, I don't know, like, is this like cheating, whatever? Like, yo, bro, the tool is there, use it.
Yeah, exactly.
And feel comfortable with it.
I 100% agree.
So with this image, the reason why I wanted to use the vintage is that it has like a really lovely fade to it. And that gives a little bit of texture in a nice way. And so after we add that, you'll actually see that same problem we were talking about where we're kind of losing detail in here for him. What I would do is I would go back over to selective edits. I'd plus it up, add these guys in. I would actually bring my size down a little bit because I'm actually going to be working in here on his beard. We'll bring our feather down, and then we'll start in this region just to make sure that I'm not just robbing of his humanity just because I think something looks cool.
Oh, Tim says, you should always move the sliders all the way to the left and right to try them out, apart from the clarity
don't
slider.
Do that.
Please
and don't yeah, that clarity or sharpening. You're like, yikes.
Josh Robinson's asking, might have been asked, but what camera app is being used to take these photos on the phone?
Oh, so Josh, nice to meet you. So these are this is Lightroom, and these are photos. These actually aren't mobile photos. I shot these on my Canon Mark IV that we talked about earlier. I believe this is with an 85. The reason why I used the 85mm is I really wanted my image to. Oh, I forgot that when you tap this, it just said eraser, and I was like, what? Oh. When you tap the pencil, like things can happen. And so I shot these, and then I'm just showing how the workflow can work from the computer to the phone, back to the iPad, to my Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so here,
yeah, and this live stream will be available after to replay, so you can rewatch it as if you didn't get a chance to come in earlier. So that'll be available at behance.net/live.
Yes, ma'am. So you'll see we just brightened that up a little bit. You guys will see that you're just getting a little bit of detail there, and you'll see that like it helps run across his face. We know that right now our eyes go right to his eye, which is important.
Yes.
But then our framing of our face is here. So here on his beard to hair, and then here where this runs through. And so just making sure that we have a nice little frame for him inside of the photo.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
On what device do I like to work with Lightroom the most? I mean, I don't really have to choose, but because I can use all of them. But honestly, the iPad. iPad is great. Like, I used to joke that, remember we were like, oh, you just have your giant iPod Touch? Yep. No, this is great. Like 100%, super helpful. I was super wrong about this.
That's awesome.
Something worth playing with is the tint. So here we see that our original tint was a little green, but I still think it looks a little pink in here. So let's see what happens if we just tap slightly and make it a little greener. You're seeing that it's getting a little bit whiter. And I actually like this a little better. If we can see how we've gone from this to this, which is like something that feels peaceful, but with a little bit of conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim says, but you can take raw photos using the Lightroom app.
You 100% can.
If the device supports it.
Let's take a second, and I will show that to the folks. Because I don't want to later hear that I didn't do that. Oh, sorry, man. I just unplugged without even giving you any sort of warning. I was just like, anyway. So on the phone, you guys will see.
Ooh.
This is what the studio looks like. Ooh. Okay. So up here on the top. Oh, sorry. Let me give a slight demo of this app. When you open it, let's close Lightroom, right? We'll open it. It'll load up. It'll do its thing. And then when you hit the camera button down here, that lets you take a photo. And then over here lets you import. So some people have it so that it automatically imports every image. I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah.
Because It's, you know. Oh, wow. I went to Barney's yesterday. It was hilarious. Anyway, so we're here. When you open the app, for most of y'all, it will start with this automatic. It has normal auto mode, which is kind of what your iPhone shoots on now. It exposes properly. This little guy locks your exposure. You don't have to really worry about that as much right now. And also this will let you switch between your lenses.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just so you know, the lens lengths on this new guy are 13 millimeters for the ultra wide, which is this guy. The wide is 26 millimeters, and the telephoto is 52.
I love these the new lenses. That's
yeah,
so cool.
big fan. And so what I would tell you is make sure that you, this is helpful for you to get an idea what the focal lengths are here, because then those can also translate to how you use your camera. And I 100% take photos a lot on my phone. Like we talked about, like just really fast, just to make sure you guys know I'm not making up things. This was on my phone. This was just on the Apple page, actually. So you guys know I'm not making things up. Yeah, they're verified. It's right here.
Woo woo.
I took it on my phone, and these are all things you can do. Portrait mode's really helpful, but there's a lot of fun things that like I've gotten to take. This is my favorite photo I took last year on my phone. This really lovely kid.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, we're on the camera. We have auto, but we're gonna go over to professional. When you want to change the output, you just tap this top little guy up here, and you change between JPEG and DNG. DNG stands for digital negative. Really fast, other things that are helpful. This little guy lets you choose, oh yeah, you can see that I tapped it. This little guy lets you choose your focus. So let's say that we were just hanging out and you proposed to me and I just was like, oh my God, this is crazy. God. I know we just met. But you can, let me change it a little bit wider so you can see it. You can change your focus point. So let's say I wanted to focus on my hand so I could flex on everybody. These little green lines that come in here show you exactly what's being focused on.
Cool.
So that, let's say as we get closer, we wanted to get this. You can then move away and you'll see everything else is out of focus.
Is out of focus, yeah.
But if you're over here and you're on auto, it'll decide for you.
Okay.
And so that level, that's probably my favorite Lightroom camera
so
feature.
Cool.
This lets you choose your shutter speed, exposure compensation is great, and your ISO, but like, you know.
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry.
How many times can I say cool? This is so cool.
The RAW feature works on iPhone 6 Plus with Lightroom. Sure, I think so.
Thank you, Tim, for providing the link for all the supported devices.
Tristan asked, what would you say the best Instagram photo size? For me on Instagram, it's very often that landscape photos don't always perform as well. This is actually a picture my friend took of me taking this photo.
Oh.
And it's funny because we were actually being paid to do a much different job that day, but that didn't stop me from popping by.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of the landscape size because I feel like you get more image. And so in here, you like it.
That would
takes
be
up
what,
the
4x5?
Yeah, the 4x5.
Yes.
Versus doing something that's wide in this way, I think it kind of ends up robbing the viewer a little bit. But I think you need to take photos based on what's important and then work from it afterward. So if you take a bunch of landscapes, then just share them however you can.
Yeah.
Really quick, yes, you can capture RAW on the iPhone 10. I had the 10, 2 phones before this. I promise I'm not like a phone gross person because Apple's very kind to me and I work with them sometimes on stuff. Let's see. Compatible with the mobile workflow.
Jane Eric says, Andre, you need to show them the long exposure feature.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
fantastic.
Let's do that tomorrow. Just so no. Well, we have 6 minutes left, and I wanted to maybe do one more edit. I just wanted to make sure you guys saw this.
We'll get to reviewing in about 5 minutes, and then if we have some time at the end, we'll just finish up some of the edits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back to the iPad, but yes, for the Instagram thing, I would always say that figuring out a way to make sure your work really fits in, but also it's important to like understand on your stories. Hold on. Yeah, on your story, there we go. It's a little bit longer of an image. So sometimes what some of my friends do is when they post something, they'll show more of it in their story, and it helps people work.
Yeah.
Tristan asked, does Lightroom work well on an Android? Yes, it does. That Lightroom team are full with people that worked with me a lot when I was a resident and work really hard to make sure that this is as accessible to many people as possible.
So cool.
Which is important because they shouldn't alienate their user base. It also, like, the more people can work on things and have access to them, the better and happier everyone is. So we are finishing up this photo with George. We'll see that we went from this like kind of pink little bit haze to this. We made it a little greener. We added a little more punch. We brightened in his beard.
So beautiful.
And we just allowed him to be him. So let's kind of get out of this like Art Deco and let's get something that feels kind of intense.
Yes, that's very intense.
And so with George here, my first instinct is to just make it like a shade or two brighter. I think often we'll shoot something so dark, like this is so moody, but you have to remember that most people's phones aren't on max brightness. So some people on their phone,
that's so
this is
true.
what this
I
looks
did
like.
not think about that.
This is what this looks like, and they're just like, what is this? And so
that's such a good point. I mean,
getting yourself to a point where people are looking at stuff is helpful. And like, remember when Game of Thrones had that really dark episode and everyone was furious about it? Let's not be those people. And so I actually might use some contrast here.
or the time they left that coffee cup in the. Just kidding.
Yikes. I don't even watch Game of Thrones and I know about that.
I don't either. That was so funny though.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
So yeah, so we're here. So I added some contrast
That's
because I
something
really love
great that you brought up though about it.
how people look at your stuff.
How people look at your stuff, because I did not even think about that. I usually see my stuff like on full brightness because that's just me. But yeah, that's such a
For
good
my
point.
my battery warriors that have their things like bad low but refuse to turn their phones off. That's what we should be doing. As we're here, the reason why I added contrast is I really like this yellow, and since it's there, it provides a separation. So like, okay, just like I'm wearing this coat, there's a separation. You can tell where my body starts and ends because I have a dark to a lighter, and then my skin is this color. With George here, we have this very warm area, but we can see the details of his body even outside of that because we're going from this gray to this white, to this black, to this yellow, to his face. And so without realizing it, you're providing better context. And so something I brought up earlier, we were talking about photographing, is like, often a lot of us like want to take this like almost like jail photo where we're like squatted up. But making sure there's like definition between your neck and your head is really important, because like if you have someone just fill up the entire frame, then they look cramped, and also they look like larger. People talk about the camera adding 10 pounds, but that's not always the case. It's just sometimes making sure that you give the person kind of space.
That makes sense.
And so also with this yellow, I think it could be a little bit brighter. So I can bring this luminance, and like you see how it's coming up a little bit, and then bring that saturation down so it isn't overwhelming. And so we'll see how the yellow is changed here. It's just a little bit flatter. So then we're here. We're gonna bring our highlights down a little bit, because so basically the point to pay attention to is right around his eyes. So you see how these highlights are changing?
Yeah.
We're just bringing them down so that they're subtle, but they're not overpowering. Blacks, as you notice, it's too much, and so I want to add just a touch of detail there. And so here we're seeing like something that's vulnerable. Something I like to do a lot is encourage my subjects to open their mouth just slightly. I have a bit of a rounder face, and so if you have someone purse their lips, then it's hard to say and do it at the same time, but something you can either choose to do is have someone keep their mouth slightly open or close it, and that just gives more definition. His mouth a little bit more open is helpful because he has a more narrow face, and so I want him to be a little bit softer. A vignette here isn't really necessary, but if you wanted to make it feel a little bit more cinematic, you can add a touch of it, so you see his edges are burned in. And so now we feel like we're maybe even in the scene, this kind of looks like the back of what's the word? The end of Lost, if you watched Lost back in the day. Clarity I wanted to be careful of here because it's already so dark. So I maybe add a little bit more of that guy. And then like, I don't know if I'd necessarily use a profile here, but it's always helpful to take a look. So you can see the ones I used before with 6, I think is ineffective here because when this fade comes in, it softens the black so much that you lose the kind of intensity and the rawness of that moment. But if you look through these, this could be warm enough to add him, or maybe it's not. This is nice, but it desaturates the colors a little too much. And so as you work through, you just kind of want to be aware of, we go from here to this, and it's kind of the same level of darkness, but you'll see this color in the gray is gone, and this red is kind of softer. It loses a little bit of that fun. And so a lot of this comes with playing with it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I can proudly say that I have been using this application far too long. But I would just say that going in, for me, I know where my light's coming from. You can tell it's coming from his side, higher up. I know what the goals are with the images. It's kind of how I want to work through this. And then like lastly, just being patient and working through stuff. And since it's non-destructive, I don't feel like I have to get it right the first time or whatever. I could just kind of sit and play with what feels right. And I can refine my taste by like really using Instagram, Flickr, Tumblr, Twitter. Twitter is great. If you have a Twitter, please follow me or just at least tweet me so I can see it. But I'm a big fan of that because being able to see more work and study it is like how you get better and you like train your eye.
How did you even set up the shot real quick?
I had him lay down, so he's a little further
and just
than me,
kind of like
and then come up
a little bit.
But I set the frame early, and I often like to show someone, I'll take just a test photo and say like, this is what this looks like, so that they have an idea. And if you have, another thing I want to point out, if someone that's uncomfortable with getting their photo taken, you can have them take your photo. Gotta water my plants. You can have them take your photo, and just the practice of it like helps them feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're going to head over to Discord. Hopefully you guys have submitted your challenges by now. And if not, keep submitting them because sometimes we'll review them the next day if, if we have some time. But I just refreshed our page, so I'm going to take a look. Let's see. And then we're going to have, let's see. Ooh, we've got so many submissions from yesterday's. Got to scroll down all the way down. Okay, perfect. So I think this is the start. So today's challenge was to design an event poster using brushes and custom textures. Thank you, Kathleen, for giving that challenge earlier today. So we'll just like take a look and kind of see. All right, so, DJ Battle of the Year.
Wait, you did this in the time that we've been talking?
Yep.
This is crazy.
Isn't that crazy? People have like, during your stream, like,
y'all got good free time. And great, like, RAM? Like, what's going on here?
This is amazing. Wait, I love the kind of like painteresque texture of it.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
actually
fun.
like it. This font choice is really interesting to me because have you seen, not Nick and Nora's, have you seen Scott Pilgrim?
I don't think I have.
The Michael Cera movie?
No.
If anybody knows Michael Cera, you can tell him that I find him remarkably entertaining. I would love to take his photo. This reminds me of this, like, they have like a DJ battle scene. And it feels fun without it being like too much.
Yeah.
There's lots of times I've seen nightlife posters that are like, yo, come down to the whatever, and you're like, yo, all right, I don't know, I'm scared. This just feels like, hey, like, come have a good time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The texture, especially in the jacket, is really nice. It has like a nice Drive by Ryan Gosling vibe to it.
Oh yeah.
But that texture is really, really important, and I would almost tell the person I want to see more of this person that they made. There's like a lot of lovely negative space around, so I would like really love to see maybe a larger version of the DJ, or just something to like really call attention to the best parts of the image, which are this person's illustration.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I would say is maybe because it's a poster and it's like small right now, but maybe the text a little bit more larger here. But I love the textures in the drawing and everything. So great job.
Lastly on that, something that an old creative director of mine told me is don't go out of your way to use multiple fonts for that reason. And so here, the font choice for your like date is actually really nice and powerful. And I would probably use that all the way throughout.
All the way through,
except for maybe that middle text if you have something like that includes more than a couple words, just so there's clarity with reading. But anything that's larger, like the doors or even DJ Battle, is really, really interesting. And here, you have a really warm palette. So that orange and that red, I like the idea if you start in yellow and going down, so maybe that entire bottom should be red.
The bottom should be red.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, that's awesome.
Or like a burgundy, I don't know.
Yeah, love it. Thank you, Camila. Thanks for submitting.
Thank you so much.
All right, so then this is Yael, and she's asking, are the shadows on her face too dark? Had so much fun painting this.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. The jewelry show.
Fast?
This is so cool.
I'm
impressed.
I can't do anything.
multitasking is really hard. So they must have been like,
They still
working
need to
on
work
this.
on
Or
3 iTunes apps. Though. What are we talking about? Oh, sorry. They're talking about iOS in the chat. I looked over and I was like, what? Okay, so first of all, really like this font choice. I like that you used the color palette's really nice.
And I like the overlapping of this too. It looks kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And
overlapping is always
you use
fun.
like colors kind of
Throughout.
directly related. The earrings to this text, this one to her eyes.
Absolutely.
And she was asking if the shadows on her face are too dark. Maybe like a tiny bit. I don't know.
A tiny bit. I liked how this is painted. I'm not. Is that Kathleen? Who is that supposed to be?
I don't know. I think it's just supposed to be.
Okay. I really like especially the texture of the hair.
Yes.
I really like how you went over that and did like gray on top of like this kind of interesting brush, and would like to see more of that in the face. Not to like overpower it, but I think that it's like a messy bun style, as I describe it. And I would be really cool to see more of that there, because that's like the hair is definitely the most powerful part of this image, and I want to make sure that people can appreciate it. Just like with the last one, like you guys are making really cool stuff. Like whatever that main idea is, like really hammer it.
Yeah, exactly. Great feedback.
Also, Rob, there is a switch in the green room, so right after I get out of here, I got you.
All right, and then we've got Ant.
Yo, what is this?
All right, a weekend of Elvis. Friday, that's all right.
Oh, my man.
Saturday, Las Vegas. Sunday in the ghetto.
Oh, my gosh.
This is kind of amazing.
Dude, first of all, just since we've been talking about font, underneath Elvis, what great hierarchy. Look at this. We have clear font. We have clear dates.
Yes.
We have nice use of negative space and space in general coming down. I'm curious, but I don't know if I'd switch it, about that second line, flipping that number with the word lines, like whoever those people are, just so maybe there's like a spot for your eyes to rest. But the words that you put on top of that are actually more important, so I'm not actually sure if this is just more a feeling and like something I want to try versus anything else. And I love that you use this like really solid bouquet background.
Yeah, the bouquet and the texture on this.
Just cut out Elvis. I find Elvis infinitely hilarious because I don't fully understand why it's like such a big deal. But
yeah,
to each his
love
own.
it. Great.
Thank you for sharing.
Ant.
I also like that you placed it. You guys all placed these on like fake
on
backgrounds.
like little
Unless you
almost
printed them out and shot them. I don't know how this is possible.
Yeah, maybe they just like put it on like a little like stock of like a poster just chilling in a room. Okay, so this one's from Amage H.
Ooh.
Okay, this is a horse sale. Oh,
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Do people frequently sell horses?
I don't
places?
know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But it's happening at Southern Town Recreation.
Big fan of this color. Let's go ahead and start with that. Like this is like a very campy green. It reminds me, it's like a Wes Anderson green. And this illustration actually...
I love this little painting, like these little strokes with all the different little colors too. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. Big fan of this. I like two things. I like a lot of things, but two main things. You have a really lovely balance between, framing your image here and here. Using the same text, the same font. I would make that bottom font slightly larger so that your eyes kind of run all the way through. I would say this kind of similar thing about fonts, like this actually might look a little classier if you use like that Southtown Recreation horse sale font. If you actually maybe use that same thing to say horse sale and have it stretched a little bit, but right underneath, so you like maintain hierarchy, it would be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And that brown drawn horse is so cool. I would get rid of that other one and just really focus on this thing.
That's true, yeah.
These are all my opinions. They could be wrong. I don't know. What do you think about this? I also have been like just chatting away without really being a gracious.
No, I agree. I think this one is like, it's the show. This one's the show. So I feel like this one you probably don't even need. And you can even make this text, like you said, it's kind of stretched out like from one into the other. Cool.
Could see some
Thank
overlap
you.
there. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, this is from Ken. Still very much in progress, just threw in text. Plan different look for text and filling in more around bike.
Oh,
ooh, I love
heck
this
yeah,
color.
dude. That's really
love the color.
awesome. shout out to a palette. A soft pink. Like, I know we can't project from my Apple Watch, but that is
beautiful.
The color of my watch. Big fan.
It's the color of your, under your button up.
Color my button up. That pink is really nice, and you chose really lovely colors.
I love
Same
the
thing about
texture.
Yeah.
And really good, like font, text,
Yes.
kind of like balance. Everything, yeah.
With
Everything's
a
really
ton of
well
clarity
balanced.
in there. Really, really like it. Also, that you made sure that you spaced out your month, year, day properly, or year, month, day properly, so that it's completely even throughout. For Dirt Bite Rally, I would use that soft pink.
Yeah.
I'd use that soft pink.
Yeah.
I would maybe change that font, but that top font, I just think it looks really classy to have this like really, because that's like I can't tell if it's a serif or not, but it's like a really nice font at the top. And that slight color change, you see that cut through in the middle is also really cool.
Yeah, the two-tone.
Yeah.
It's right here. Love it. This is great.
Yeah, this is
good
really
job,
good.
Ken.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this is from Leah Michelle, day 7, work in progress. I'm nowhere near done, but here's what I have so far. What do you think? Ooh.
What's a map?
Magic mushroom party. What?
I mean...
Where the wild things go. I mean, to each their own, right? I love the little textures all over, though.
Oh, man, it reminds me of Pikmin, if you played that game.
The what?
There's a game where you, like... There's a matter. Anyway, all of the references of nerddom are coming out, and I'm embarrassing myself in front of a new person. I see that you quickly took back our engagement. Okay, so, Magic Mushroom Party. Cool.
I dig it.
Do me a favor, could you pull up Instagram really quick?
Oh, sure.
And go to Sid Weiler. She SYD.
SYD.
WEI. Right there. So Sid was a resident the year before me, and her illustration work might actually be really, what's the word? Might be really like a nice point of contact for this other person, because I can see that you put a lot of detail in. And so over time, she's been working on like using brushes to make a lot of these like nature scenes.
Yeah.
And so just,
Oh, I don't want that. No.
All right, well then we'll just get out of it.
Well, we'll get out of it.
Yeah, but it's worth, like, totally worth you guys seeing, so that you can, like, I'm a big fan of that.
Just reference, kind
but
of like
this detail is
nature.
great. Even this bottom mushroom, like, black and white, right? Or black and...
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool with this little, like, green moss texture, too. That's fun. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Leah Michelle. I think this is great. Yeah, I would just keep playing around with it more and kind of keep on adding stuff to it. I bet it could be a really like fun like collage-y type.
Absolutely.
Like, it almost has like that like Alice in Wonderland like vibes.
Absolutely. I think it looks really, really cool.
And keep on playing with like more neon textures and things. I think that'd be really fun.
Heck yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. And then this one's maybe from day 5, but I don't remember what the challenge one was for that one, but let me just go ahead and refresh really quick just to make sure we didn't miss anybody else's. That looks like it's it. Okay, well, thank you guys for submitting to the challenge. We had a lot of fun going through and reviewing everything, and make sure, cool. Make sure to stay tuned for more challenges coming up. So,
cool.
All right, well, we'll just get back into your
let's do it.
Anything else that you wanted to?
Were we looking at? I thought we were going to look at people's portfolios today. We know tomorrow.
I think that might be tomorrow.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm not robbing anyone of their time and their place.
You are good. So you can get to finish up a couple of things, whatever you'd like. We have about 10 minutes, 10 to 13 minutes.
Okay. So
any last minute questions, you guys, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'm going to be happy to answer them. Anything you want to know about his process, photography, editing.
And thank you guys for coming. Like, especially like since you're not here in person, the internet is a very fun place, and you could be doing a lot of other things.
Yes.
When we were reviewing, I was actually trying to tag you in this thing, but I was like, I think I'm spelling her name wrong. So it kept like populating a different. I was like, this isn't her. So we'll do it later. But here, I really love this image. I like the idea of leading lines. So this line.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. this line here, and then the lines in the bricks are running your eyes directly toward his face. But I wanted this to feel a little like weird. So you'll see he's actually placed off of the center. And so that actually just makes it feel a little strange. And so I'm going to bring the saturation down a little. Sorry, going on down one more.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, we're starting a new challenge on Monday. That's right. Tomorrow we'll be doing the portfolio reviews, as you mentioned.
As long as everybody's happy. I just didn't want to be like, all right, let's go back to my thing. And someone's like, oh, you're looking at my stuff. Not that you guys sound like that. That's me sounding like that. So I'll be honest. Dehaze is a fascinating thing that I don't use super often, but when I feel like there's a dominant light, I'll use it more. One of my main things I'm thinking about right now is here on his face looks a little cool, like in terms of warm to cool. I think often, although we want to achieve perfect white, we have to be careful and understand that sometimes perfect white is a little bit more desaturated. And so I will always go a little bit warmer. So let's go ahead and hop over and see what happens if we select this sheet as white. So we'll see it's like a little blue. So we'll just get a little warmer. And so this is one of the times that since we have him separate from here, we can see detail in his hair. I might see what happens if I increase my shadows a little bit. I think it's maybe vignetting him in a way that I don't love, so I'm going to kind of stay away from that. But here in this image, there's a couple things that I like want to focus on. I want to bring up the greens in these leaves up here.
And the leaves in the back.
So we're not going to do anything like that crazy. Like you guys can see how they're changing. But I do want to make them a little bit and then make them a little bit warmer. And then the same thing goes for this red over here. The red that's in these little berries. Bring them up a little bit. And then the yellow's in a good spot. And so this is our base. We went from this that looks more primary to something that's kind of bright. It's a touch desaturated, so I might try to come back down from that. But adding a little bit of texture, I want this to feel like kind of the other images do. So it's honest, it's a little strange, and it's a little bit off, but in a way it's like comfortable. They're talking about activity monitors.
A lot of random things. So
a lot of things. Let's go and leave that alone. But if you guys have questions about how I'm editing, happy to answer those. And so here with this image, I actually kind of want to go to color. And in my mind, this feels a little pink. And so you'll see it's on plus, which means it's a little bit pinker. So I'm just out of curiosity gonna go a little bit more green and see where we're at. So we went from this to this. Or sorry, hold on. We went from this to this. And so that's maybe a little too green. We come here, come one over, and then warm us up a little bit. And then we have kind of a base image that the color to me feels right. And so, like I said, to do that, it's like about building a mood board. So if we go back to Instagram on my phone, which is always confusing to look at. When I was making a mood board for this, I'm using it sideways right now. You'll see there's some images that have like those really crisp colors, and those are totally doable for it. But images that I looked at that I thought made a lot of sense were this photo of Adrian that's a little punchy, a little grainy, and then this isn't exactly how we shot it, but just that over the shoulder.
It's so beautiful.
And that use of shadow. And so when you look at that, and you look at how orange is such a primary color here, if we get back to this guy, and we didn't select any more of these guys, you'll see that this is kind of a similar thing. So we want to have something that's nice and warm. So if we go back to our profiles, if we stay in vintage, we want something that gives us latitude. So this vintage is interesting because it essentially flattens everything else out and gives him space to be. But when I'm looking through, I'm trying to find things that manage warmth well. This vintage 6, which we used once before, was a little too much because now it's made so many shadows that it's hard to kind of pay attention to his face. And so what we want to come to is this, which is what we had before. This vintage is, we liked what we were getting here, but it had flattened it out and made our backgrounds a little bit.
Hank says, what about the free Lightroom? Is it good enough to start with?
Yeah. This is what I'm using right now. It's you can't store anything in there, but it's the same Lightroom that everybody else uses. And if you choose to get the profile, then you can kind of work from there.
Yeah.
Or you choose to get the account, that you can work from there. And I believe it's $9 or $10 a month for Lightroom and Photoshop. So now we're seeing, I was talking about trying to find a profile that manages my warmth well. So what I mean by that is we press and hold.
I have a question real quick. When you're photographing, do you kind of pick like your color temperature, or do you kind of fix your color temperature after the fact?
Oh no, yeah, I shoot it in RAW, and unless if something is like really off, then I'll change it. But generally, I shoot it in RAW, and then I also there's like a I forget what it's called. It's a camera profile that you're supposed to shoot like video in on the Canons. That's like it's neutral, so everything's super gray. I shoot everything like that because it feels like I can work backwards from that.
Yeah.
Log is what it's called. Thank you, sir. Shout out to the whole team. Shout out to these computers, but more importantly, all the people that you cannot see that allow us to be here.
Yes.
I very much am very thankful for those folks, from Sam all the way onward. So looking at this guy, the number one thing you see is if we switch from this to this, we want to pay attention to how the shadows are changing. So you'll see that the shadow is going from this kind of bluish black to a brown. And so let me just zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. See in here, it's a little bit darker. And you just look at his shoes and you'll see how everything is a little closer to the palette that he's on.
Yes.
And everything, he feels like he fits in the scene a little bit better. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
And then from there, I want to come out. I'm going to say to myself, okay, with that, I have a little concern this is overtaking his face. I don't want to ruin this kind of gradient that I have in here. So instead, I'm going to start to bring up my highlights a little.
Oh yeah, that's
and
so
then
nice.
I'm going to bring up my shadows a little, and you're starting to see how his face works without the entire image like getting blown out. So let's say that we get rid of those and instead just brought this up. You'll see how we're starting to lose that almost like natural little vignette we were getting in these corners. And so that's kind of how I think about it. I would bring this up, bring this down maybe. And so we have like a little bit of attitude. We keep that attitude.
A little bit of tude.
And then we go ahead and paint right on George's face where we know we need some brighten up a little bit. Go just a little bit. And so we go from this, sorry, this is a better way to do it. From here to here. And just that little bit of detail lets you see his face. So let's say we're a little bit wider. We're going from here to here. And in that, we're seeing someone that's comfortable. Red is a very dominant color. And as we look at it, we can say, okay, cool. This person is comfortable in the space. It's a gritty space. There's water, there's trees, there's leaves, but it's still very warm. And so that was kind of where it worked out there. Where did you
shoot this?
I shot this in the like alley of his apartment building.
Oh my gosh.
After we finished shooting, we were
chair?
walking out. No, it was just a chair that was outside.
It was a chair that was just randomly
outside?
outside?
They had like chairs in that. He lives in like a complex building that has a side, and so we just
That's crazy.
sat down, although like
that's amazing.
things are scary.
It looks very like majestic in a way.
Thank you, Hank. You should also check out some of the other work for the people that I showed. I can make some recommendations. Maybe we'll start tomorrow with some people that inspire me.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Hank.
Like I said, because I know we're not like out of time, but I just want to make sure that we say these things. If you heard anything today that was interesting to you, please tweet it at me so I can share it so other people can go listen to this. You can find me on the internet. My Twitter is just Aundre Larrow. My Instagram is my first name, like we said. Where can they find you on the internet? Because obviously they should definitely see your work also.
Oh no, it's a stream about you.
It's only about me. Well, I'll just like be tweeting her links so people can see them.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, so this is kind of how I think about things is like palette, mood, light, which we talked about, main idea.
Yes.
And not everything's going to be good. Like you guys saw, we shot a lot of images. This is 38. We made 38 selects really fast out of 600 photos. Some people take less photos than me. Some people take more. It really depends on what you like to look at.
Yeah.
and what you want to make decisions
Everyone's
about.
process is so different too.
Everyone's
So
process
I
is hella
mean,
different.
there's no right or wrong as long as you kind of get to where you need to go.
Yeah. And we will, if anyone has any questions, I will answer them. But if not, we're just going to ride this out.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Tim. Tim's great.
Dude, appreciate you for just dropping all the knowledge.
Dropping all the links. All right. Well, it looks like we are at the end of our live stream today. I know. I'm so sad, but we will be back tomorrow, 9:30 to 11:30. We'll be doing some more Lightroom, mobile photography. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to go follow Aundre on Instagram and check out his work. But we'll be back tomorrow, so stay
thanks
tuned.
guys for taking time.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Never felt